I'm John Geha, CEO of the Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors, and I'm here this morning with Tiffany Harris, our 2026 president. Hi, Tiffany.
Hi, John.
It's wonderful to have you this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So, you're our new president, 2026, but it didn't just happen. So, I'm intrigued. I'm getting to know you, and I know there are a lot of people that feel they know you, but let's really get to know Tiffany Harris.
Ooh.
So tell me about you personally, and then I have a number of questions to ask if that's okay.
Okay, so personally, where do you want me to start?
How did you get into real estate?
So prior to real estate, I was on the other side of real estate. I was in property management.
Okay.
So I worked in both the public and private sector. And I originally got into real estate for my own personal investments. I wanted to understand the contracts. I wanted to be able to navigate my own transactions. I got my license in 2014.
Okay.
And I had a high school friend that was going overseas for a job, and she was working with another high school friend because she's also licensed. And she's like, I just want to leave her with someone that I know she'll take care of. And I'm like, well, I've only, been doing rentals for the first year of my career. So this was 2015. And she was like, you can do it. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. So that was my first buyer client. And a few years after that, I ended up posting that they were my first client. And she was like, I would have never known throughout the transaction. So I fell in love with it. Even when I was in property management, I would always enjoy just excitement around someone's first apartment. I manage college properties, so roommates, developing friendships, and just the fun around it, the excitement was what I really enjoyed. And from there, I just continued and continued. In 2018, I started a team with a partner, and I began to run the team like how I saw a brokerage would be ran. Not that I had even decided at that point that I wanted a brokerage. I just knew that I wanted to lead. I wanted to be who I was, who I needed when I first got into the industry, because I was dual career for 4.5 years. And I found a lot of times that I was navigating things on my own. And I was like, there has to be a better way. There has to be a way that we can collaborate, support each other, and not feel that we can't share knowledge and we can't share information. So I started the team. And then 2 years into the team, I opened a brokerage, bless my heart, at the height of the pandemic. I put a deposit down on our building, and 2 weeks later, the world shut down.
What a great time, though, actually, to open a business, because it is easier when everything is smooth, but you learn so much more when it's not. So what did you learn during that time?
Everything. More than anything, I learned a lot about myself as a leader. I learned a lot about truly what my leadership style was. I learned a lot about, boundaries. I learned a lot about delegating. But as a leader, I was really able to see myself in a different space. It's a little bit different when you have a job and it's, as property manager, this is what you have to do. And you manage your maintenance staff, you manage your leasing staff, but being a broker, you also are managing your agents' lives in some aspect, because you have to be everybody. Life happens, people pass away, people have babies, they get married, and you're a little bit more involved, because every decision that I make, I have not only my agents, but their families depending on me. So it's completely different in a world of we come to work every day, and that's really not my responsibility. I can sit down and talk to you about what you have going on personally, but my decisions aren't necessarily affecting an individual. It may be affecting the company that I'm working for. So I learned a lot about, myself in that.
Interest rates go up, markets slow down, and you have to manage that stress. But COVID is a whole different manageable stress level. But not only that, you had to manage your own personal life. You have a son that was in high school during COVID. Talk about your son as well, because I know you're very proud of him. He's got a great work ethic.
Yes.
And he's doing extremely well for the city.
Yes.
So let's talk about him, and then how did you manage this stress during COVID, starting a new brokerage, dealing with your agents, as you said, but also dealing at home?
So Ray is 21. His name is Raymar, but we call him Ray. So he's 21. He'll be 22 in March. And he currently works for Department of Public Works. And he found that opportunity on his own. He had a lot of pressure, I think, or pressure either he put on himself or others. That because his mom owned a real estate brokerage, that he should just by default go into real estate. And we had a conversation, and I think that it lifted a weight. So I told him, I said, this is not you just get into to just get into. It's really something that you have to be passionate about, but your path is your path. So he found an internship with the Department of Public Works that allowed him to shadow different departments. He was on contract for a year, and now he's a full-time employee there, and recently was promoted to a different facility. So he really enjoys it. I was very concerned about him when COVID happened. Yeah. He was in the 9th grade. It was, well, going into the 10th grade when the world shut down. The world actually shut down 2 weeks prior to his 16th birthday. So there were a lot of just moments that he missed out on and wasn't able to do, but he also is very social. He was, and still is an outside person. He wants to be outside with his friends. I was really concerned, like that social aspect was completely gone. And then also no prom, no ring dance, no football games, no anything. Just your house, your room, a laptop for 6 hours a day. So I was really concerned about his mental health during that time. And I've shared before on other spaces that I've talked on, I do deal with some mental health things myself. So I was diagnosed with PTSD, childhood trauma, back in, it's probably been about 8 years now. I woke up one day and I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I couldn't explain it. I didn't know what it was. And I started therapy. I was always very anxious. I was always very hard on myself. There would be moments where I would have to pull myself out of bed, and I just didn't know how to articulate what was happening. And I learned through therapy that's what it was. I had moments even prior to getting to real estate where I attempted suicide. So it was a lot. So I was very, very concerned with his mental health and just knowing what I was also dealing with. I mean, just tying back into just life happening. As a broker, you have to motivate people sometimes when you're not even motivated yourself. So that was a lot.
That's an incredible level of inner strength that you have, that you were able to reach inside you. So how did you find that, and how do you transfer that strength, that inner strength, not just at home, but I never knew any of this, but I can now see it. It's now resonating, that strength that you have. So how did you pull that out? I've
journaled, and I have pretty much every journal that I've ever had since I was little. So that has always kind of been my escape. When I started journaling, it was the opportunity to go somewhere else outside of whatever my reality was. So in that, I would every so often I'll go back, like the end of this year, I'll go back to the beginning of the year and read. And sometimes I'll go back to today, last year, just to see where I was in my thought process, what was happening in my life at that time. And what it started to do was I would start the day with unloading. So I'm like, I'm waking up very anxious, so I would unload. And then everything that I was feeling, like this deal isn't gonna close, this isn't gonna happen, Ray has a test today, whatever my thoughts were when I first woke up. And then at the end of the day, I would go back and I would read through it, and then I would write how the day actually went. So I started saying to myself that like, I'm telling myself, or I'm having these thoughts that aren't even factual. What is that? Because I'm waking up this way with all of these thoughts running, but then it's not even true in how the day is actually gonna go. So that was where I was like, okay, there's something else that's triggering me having these thoughts, always being nervous and just not wanting to do certain things. So then I started to see when that time frame was happening. Seasonal depression is a real thing. When it starts to get cold, my mood goes down. And I shared on social media recently when I took my staycation, how I started my staycations at the Pendry was my therapist told me to start a new tradition. You're holding on to what you didn't have as a child, and that's what's triggering you to go through, just kind of get over the holidays, create new memories for yourself. So that's how I started the staycation. But I say that to say that I started to really pay attention to how I was feeling certain times of the year. So I'm like, okay, so that's why I kind of get down. And then I look back at my business. My best years were always the winter. It was because I threw myself in work. Because if I threw myself in work and I was busy, I could say, I'm not coming to the holiday party, I have to work. I'm not coming over for Christmas because I have to catch up on work. That was my excuse to not show up. So I just started listening to myself, and like I said, woke up one day and was like, I don't want to feel this. This can't be normal. There has to be a reason behind it, and I want to get to know what the reason is, because there would be times I would wake up and just be angry, but I didn't know what I was angry at. Nothing had happened, nothing had transpired, but I was angry. And so it was really just starting to listen to myself, really read through my journal, and like, I'm not even that person. Like, I don't even recognize myself. And then I started therapy.
I've not met anybody that has the in-depth self-realization as you do. And it's incredible that you recognize this. And it's really refreshing to hear that you're open about this type of discussion, that you're talking about your therapist and you're talking about what you went through and your son went through and what your agents are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So there's probably not a crisis that you haven't managed that you can address with your agents. And does Ray and do your agents recognize what you have done for them and what you're capable of doing for them?
I would say yes. I often have conversations with Ray about, he'll come and tell me, how amazing I am, and not because I bought him anything, but just overall, I think as he gets older, those conversations happen more. So when he's faced with situations at work, and then he'll go back to say, oh, I remember. So he had a situation at work with his supervisor, and it was some policy that she was misreading or misinterpreting. And he always remembered that I would tell him, you're being held accountable by this employee handbook. So you need to know it from front to back. Any job that you start or anything, because then you can't go back and say, well, I didn't know, or they're providing it to you. And more than likely you signed saying that I received it. So you want to make sure that you know what's in there, just in case you also run into a situation where someone's telling you something that isn't true, that isn't policy. And so he had to utilize that. So I think as he gets older and he reflects on those conversations and they come up in real life situations, he's like, I appreciate you telling me that. I appreciate, us talking about credit. I appreciate, us talking about how to utilize credit cards properly and, how to save and how much I should be saving. So I think as he got older, when I thought he wasn't listening, he really was listening. And I think for my agents, I think that I'm very, very honest with them. I'm very vocal with them. Actually, on Thanksgiving, one of my agents sent me a message and was like, I just wanted to check on you. And I think that just comes from me doing the same. We can get to business, but how are you? So if I see that there's an agent that hasn't been in the office for a while, I'll send a message and they'll be like, oh, I have this. I didn't ask about transactions. I didn't ask about documents. How are you? Mm-hmm. And we've had, some significant, losses. I had an agent that passed away last year. So it's really, we're really family oriented. And I say that to say like really family oriented. Culture is important to me, very, very important to me. And it was important to have not only a collaborative culture, but then also just very welcoming to new agents that come in and affiliate. So I think my agents, I think they get it. When I think they don't, I think they get it.
That's wonderful. And I have a question though for you about what you've dealt with and how you're dealing with it, which is incredible. And you go to the Pendry, and I remember hearing that when I first met you, and I think it's fantastic. But what do you do for Tiffany? Besides that, how do you pamper yourself?
So I am very much, for the most part, a homebody. I did a lot of partying in my younger days, so I think I'm kind of over that. But I like simple things. I'm gonna get flowers on every Sunday from Trader Joe's. Cooking is probably my favorite pastime, but I have gotten to the point where I do whatever I feel like in that moment. Instead of scheduling, instead of having itineraries and saying, okay, I'm gonna go to this class this particular day or do this, it's whatever I feel in the moment. That may be a museum that day. That may be going to get a new book. It may just be sitting in the community room in my building and just kind of drinking coffee and looking out of the window. So it's whatever I feel in that moment. Sometimes it's binge watching trash TV. It's whatever I feel in the moment to not overextend myself. So probably about 8 months ago, I started doing something where my agents will tell me I work sometimes very late and I'm up very early. And the first thing I would do would go and check my email. So I started asking myself a question before the first email, before the first text message, before the first call. What do you need in this moment? If that's extra sleep, if that's I'm gonna eat breakfast today, if that's I'm gonna go somewhere and get breakfast. Being a little bit more in tune with what my needs are, and also not only setting boundaries, but abiding by the boundaries that I've set. which was very hard for me early on. I felt like I had to be everything. Every time an agent called, I have to answer right now. I have to answer this client right now. I have to do this thing because I was asked to do it. And then I had to step back from that because you can't, I know it's cliche, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's whatever I feel in the moment.
Well, that goes back to the self-awareness, but the way you take care of others is you're taking care of yourself first. And that is really rare, that somebody knows how to take care of themselves first. But that leads to the passion you have. You're a student of the business of real estate. The passion you have coming in to GBBR as the president. You have three main initiatives. Now, there are multiple directions you want to go, but you have three main initiatives. Share those with us.
Yeah, so first being member engagement and participation. I would really like to see, different faces on committees, different faces at events, and just really being engaged and really tapping, we say tap on the shoulder, but really bringing in those members that are passionate about different things and allowing them to be a part. I want every member to feel that they're heard, that they're seen. We're here, we support you. But really, my tagline, believe in the benefit, believe in what we offer, believe in what you pay your dues for outside of CE classes and the fair and membership appreciation week. But every day, that GBBR is working toward the benefit for your entire career, for your future, for the future of real estate and protecting property rights and advocating for you.
And I don't want that to get lost, your tagline, because it's incredible. Believe in the benefit. And I really like the direction you're taking that.
Thank you. The next is community visibility. I think that we do great things, we've done great things, and I think that there are more opportunities for us to be visible in the community, to support the communities that we serve, support the organizations and initiatives that are important to our members, and getting them involved as well.
An example of that is Harvest for Hope.
Yes, which I'm very excited about. So Harvest for Hope is the opportunity to do a food drive and also do food distribution in January the 10th at Leonard E. Hicks Community Center. And we've partnered with them to be the distribution location. And we have a number of brokerages that are assisting us with collection as well at their brokerage. So I do appreciate that also. And I know that there will be more that we'll add. My agents, their entry to our holiday party is they're non-perishable. So just trying to find different opportunities to make sure that we can make that a very successful day.
And we have a bin here at GBBR, so
Yes.
if you can't find a brokerage, please bring that non-perishable here
Yes,
as
absolutely.
well.
If you have a class, you're coming for a meeting, bring a non-perishable.
Absolutely. And then the third is education.
Yes. I think that there is an opportunity. Yes, we know we have our CE courses that are required, but I think that there is an opportunity for us to provide courses that will support what's happening in the industry, from AI, ChatGPT, really training or teaching our agents and educating them on how to utilize it for their business, utilize it legally for their business, and how to do it the right way, but also helping them really run their businesses like businesses. Business planning and how do you do your taxes, determining should I have an LLC, should I not? And while, a lot of these things are also offered in other spaces, I think as the association, we too could provide courses like that as well.
What about instructors for this? How do we find the people to come into the building with that subject matter expertise?
So I think outside of looking into our membership, I think that we do have members out there that have just really, really amazing skill sets. So I think starting there, but then also really looking into the industry, other places that we may have been, asking, has anybody been somewhere where there's been an amazing AI instructor? Have you been to a recent conference where you heard someone that absolutely we need to get in front of our members? So I think it's a combination of a couple different ways that we can do that.
So your leadership started, and you were president-elect last year. You're president this year, and then you'll be past president next year.
Yes.
How do we take your vision, the passion you have, and go beyond 2026 into 27 and 28? How do you see that happening?
Probably a number of ways to do that, but I think one of the ways is creating these staple events that are passed on, and we just do bigger and better each year. This year we did the co-chair retreat. And I think as far as leadership having everybody involved, so then they, add their spin on it. Next year, Brad will continue it. But I think having everybody involved in that conversation and planning is not just me. It may have been my thought, but it was so many hands that were a part of that vision and executing it. So I think having everybody involved, but create them as staple events, whether we, change, mix them up, but keep them and consistently plan every year that we're going to do these staple events like State of Baltimore, Elevate. Those things continue and we just make them bigger and better each year.
So we're the Greater Baltimore Board of Realtors, but there's a gap in our visibility in this city. How do we remove that gap? How do we help really build that visibility and that activity within the city of Baltimore?
I think we continue to show up in the spaces that we've begun to show up, and that's from Chamber of Commerce meetings to town halls, being in the know, but not just being in the know, but also showing up and creating and starting to build those relationships, but then to include not only leadership and the board, but also share with our members that these are the spaces that we're in. These are the information that we brought back, and I think holding ourselves accountable to do that.
Your relationship with the board of directors, how do you strengthen that relationship? How do you get the board out of the building and into the community? What are you saying to each board member?
Starting with, I think, setting the conversation and setting that space to say that these are places that we're going to invite you to. So when I receive an email or something sent out or something that I see, even if I can't attend, to say, hey, I think we should be here. Is there anybody that's available? So I think that personal invite of saying, come along with me or come along with whomever to those spaces. I think that's how we do that.
Personal question. What's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, favorite. Crab cakes.
Really? Is there any magic, special, or secret?
I can't tell you the secret. They're made with love.
Okay. And is Ray learning how to cook through you?
He thinks he knows how to cook. I'm always nervous to try it, but he does okay. He's not starving.
Okay, that's excellent. So the last moment is through our conversation, what is the message you want to deliver, not just to our members, we have some great partners, great affiliates, sponsors, but to the community in general. What message does Tiffany Harris want to deliver?
The message that I want to deliver, Greater Baltimore, we hear you, we see you, and we're coming to support.
I love that. And that's part of Believe in the Benefit.
Yes.
It's through communication, multiple levels of communication, through engagement, through community development and social justice, and through education.
Yes.
What a great message and a great platform that you're delivering.
Thank you, and I'm excited for 2026.
So am I, Tiffany. This is wonderful. This is our first video. This is so exciting, and we're going to really develop and deliver a higher level of communication to all of our membership.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.